Recently, I wrote a post on LinkedIn about my writing workflow, and I thought I'd take you guys through the actual process and show you a little bit of the behind the scenes and the secret sauce. So, let's get into it. I have a content calendar in Notion, which I use to drop my ideas into. So they start off in the idea stage. Once I start working on them and fiddling around with them, they go into the drafting status. What I do when I want to work on my idea, I go into Claude. I have different projects in here. One of them is an X article writer, one of them is a LinkedIn post writer. Honestly, I use the X article writer for pretty much all of my articles because at this point it just has the best instructions and the most context, and I'm lazy and don't want to keep updating context for all of these projects. So, this is the secret sauce, you guys. My instructions, which took me a while to write. I wrote these, I think, with both Opus 4.5 and in ChatGPT. And I referenced a lot of my writing and also different writing that I like from other people in order to come up with like an editor prompt that could help me replicate and produce more writing like that. So we start basic, right? Just like roughly what length I'm looking for, what is my voice, what are non-negotiables for me, absolute no-nos in my writing, what I like to write about, what are the kinds of topics that interest me, my signature move, which is more like my different theses, the different arguments that I like to relay. What does the structure of my piece of writing look like? Just formatting rules and how, this one's actually important, how I would like to be helped. Like what kind of questions do I want to be asked? What kind of advice do I want to be given by Opus 4.5 in this case? So, and then what does success mean to me? Like, what does that look like exactly? Yeah, that's basically it. If you guys want these, I'm happy to share them. Just let me know. I don't know, comment, message me, whatever. The other thing that's important here are the files that are in here. So what I did recently, because I've been using ChatGPT for a lot longer actually and more extensively than Claude, is I downloaded all of my ChatGPT data and I worked with Claude Cowork to put it into different folders that you can see here, so to organize it very neatly, and then added these folders into relevant projects in Claude so that Claude has the context. This is totally me cheating on ChatGPT with Claude, but here we are. So that Claude has the context of all of my past conversations in ChatGPT, which I think is really important to do. And what does it actually look like when I want to get started with a piece of writing? I use this prompt. I think this prompt is not very good. Honestly, I wouldn't advise to use a basic prompt like that, but sometimes I'm lazy. I just referenced, even though it already has a lot of references of my piece of writing, in particular, this piece of writing that I referenced here is relevant to the piece that I want to write about. So I referenced that again and then shared an article about the topic, the Japandi aesthetic, article coming up soon about that. And then I go back and forth. Part of the back and forth doesn't happen in Claude. It happens in Perplexity. I love Perplexity for fact checking, and research. So if I want to do more in-depth research about the topic and I want to ensure that there are no hallucinations or it's just some weird things in there that are not even true, I use Perplexity, and I also use Perplexity at the very end just to make sure that my article, my thesis, is sound and what I'm saying is actually true. I also use ChatGPT. Why? Because, again, as I said, I have just so much context in the chats. I have a project in here called Capsules. A lot of what I write about does reference capsules, and sometimes it just gives me different ideas and a different perspective on what I'm writing about. So rather than what I'm getting from my project in Claude. So there's a back and forth between all of these platforms. And the last part, when I'm really happy with my piece of writing, which, by the way, I usually finish a piece of writing and then I wait 24 to 48 hours because it'll kind of process and regurgitate in the back of my brain, and I'll get some new and better ideas about how to improve it within that time frame. But what I've been doing these days is going into the Capsules launcher and actually using the image gen and the video gen in platform to come up with a capsule. That's a whole different video. Maybe that's going to be my next video, is how I go about creating a capsule. Very different from how I go about creating writing an actual article. But this is the last part for me. And it's both probably the most fun part and also the most frustrating part, because we're still working on the platform. We're still improving it. It's still early. So some things in here are buggy. But anyway, this is amazing for me to be able, as a writer, to be able to visualize my writing in this way. But that's basically it. That's kind of my process. And then I just schedule it on LinkedIn and on X and wherever else it needs to go, and send it out. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. If you like these videos, let me know. And that's about it.